Ma il mio mistero è chiuso in me, e il nome mio nessun saprà, no, no, di legua notte, tramontate stelle, all'alba vincerò, vincerò, vincerò. I bet you recognize that one. It was made famous by Luciano Pavarotti, the most famous opera singer of the 19th century, for the Olympic Games, I believe, in 1990. But I suspect if you are here, this is opera for dummies, if you are here, probably you don't know much about opera. And in some other programs, I am giving more of an introduction to the history of opera in general. But the purpose of these programs, or this little series, is to make you like opera in case you don't like it, or to make you learn a little bit more, or to help you to enjoy operas that you already know or that you are planning to listen. Tonight we are going to talk specifically about the composer of this piece, Giacomo Puccini, a 19th century to 20th century composer, 1858 to 1924, the third of the greatest opera composers, I think, not only in my view, in the view of many people who know a lot more than me. Rossini at the beginning of the 19th century, Verdi throughout the century, and then Puccini. Puccini transformed what it was initially bel canto, transformed into verismo, which is scenes in the operas that follow life in a real way. And the opera tonight is La Boheme, because tomorrow the Royal Opera House is putting live on YouTube at 7 p.m. La Boheme. And the reason why I started by singing the Vincerò, Vincerò, Vincerò is because that's another opera by Puccini, Turandot, which is the only opera, as far as I know, by Puccini, in which, in spite of the fact that he very much loved the ladies, he was a very handsome man, and I think he had several lovers plus wives, etc. I'll tell you about it another time. Anyway, in spite of that, he tended to kill all the ladies in the operas. I don't know if in Turandot he actually didn't kill the lady because he couldn't finish the opera. The opera had to be finished by somebody else. But let's go back to Boheme, that is the opera we are talking about, and you are going to watch tomorrow, hopefully, if I do my job well. La Boheme is a beautiful story, and I have a personal relationship with La Boheme. I sang in it, although in the choruses. And I confess, until today, when I started preparing this little video, I had never watched the whole thing because I was always singing the choruses. So, or in the choir, well, choruses in opera. So I used to have all my makeup done and get ready because the choristers had to be very, very early. We started, the performance was normally around 8 o'clock, I believe, 8 p.m., yes, quite late. And we had to be in the opera having makeup done and everything about 2 p.m., having a last try to all the costumes, which was extremely exciting. I always adore costumes. You will see me sometimes dress up in things that I have kept from olden times or that I have collected afterwards. Anyway, I used to watch the first act, in which I didn't sing, because for the first act are scenes of the Boheme life, of the life in Paris. It's like the Quartier Latin Quartier, 4 artists, Marcelo, Chonard, Rodolfo, and Colin. One is a painter, one is a poet, the other one is I can't remember the other two. Anyway, the two that matter more to us in this story as Rodolfo, the poet, a tenor, who is the protagonist. and Marcello, who is a baritone. And in another program, I explain about the voices. And that is the painter. And obviously, the girl. There are two girls. Mimi is the main character. And then I have never quite liked the opera so well until today because I had never watched the third act. Because in the second act, I was on the stage. Third act, I was getting cleaned and changing clothes, etc. So I always ended watching the first act, acting in the second, which is not the same as watching. You miss a lot of things. In the first place, you are very worried about doing the right thing, being in the right place, singing the right notes. Normally, the choruses are spread around the stage, and you have to know your music extremely well and by heart. And make sure that you are with an eye on the conductor, with an eye on the people around you, so that you don't clash against anybody, you don't crush anybody, and that you are not in the way of the main characters. You have to be visible and doing your own thing, and each of us normally were given a particular task to do. Anyway, I had the good fortune of being the girlfriend of the light technician in 1977, I believe. And he was the best light technician in Latin America. And he was a real artist. And it was a joy to sit, also because I had the preference, what's the name? The box. I had the main box in the center, in front of the stage, right in front of the stage, from which he moved all the dials and things, because in those days it wasn't automatic. He had to do it, but he was like a painter. It was gorgeous. Then I went, sang the second act, and missed the third act. And today I discovered that in the third act is all the character development and all the most beautiful and most poignant part of the story. So regarding history, I told you about Puccini, end of the 19th century, the third of the great Italian composers, moving from romantic opera to verismo, to something a little bit more ideal, if you like, to scenes of real life. And Boheme is totally something about scenes from real life. Again, until today, I was a little bit dubious about the music. Although Boheme has, in my view, the 4 most beautiful notes in the history of opera, for my taste. Every time I hear those 4 notes, I get moved. And they happen throughout the opera in a form in which it's like a recurring theme, and it's called leitmotiv. It was supposed to be that Wagner, our German composer earlier on, invented the leitmotiv. That's not true. Many composers had used that before. Anyway, the 4 notes are like this. And the rest is la 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 la. I don't do the words because it's sung first by Alfredo, at some stages sung Rodolfo, at some stages sung by Mimi, and it repeats throughout the opera. At the beginning, the lovers meet. There is a beautiful aria in which he very naughtily has hidden her key and has blown the candles, and then they are looking in the dark for the key they just met, and he holds her hand and he sings a most beautiful aria that you might have heard. Che gelida manina me la lascia riscaldar. What a frozen little hand. Would you let me warm it up? And we know what happens next. They bear their souls to each other and they fall in love. In the second act, it's like a carnival. You see a town in a feast. I can't remember at the moment if it's Christmas or some saint. Must be some saint day. I can't remember at the moment. But everybody's happy. There is a choir of children, a chorus of children. Everybody's playing. There are jugglers. It's a very, very beautiful visually seen. I don't adore the music in this section, but on the other hand, the things that happen, the little exchanges between the characters are important. And there is also another famous aria by the second female character, and that is she's a little bit of a lightweight girl, and she sings Quando me soletta per la via, la gente sosta mira. When I go alone, on my own, on the street, the people stops and look at me. And that's what they do, effectively, because she's very flamboyant and very beautiful. In the third act, we come into winter, and it's a totally contrasting scene, act, to the second act. The opera is in 4 acts. And in this third act, apparently Rodolfo has been, Mimi comes to tell Marcello, the friend of Rodolfo, a friend of the two of them, that Alfredo, sorry, I keep saying Alfredo because Alfredo is the big tenor in Traviata that is a very favorite opera of mine, but this is Rodolfo, not Alfredo. Rodolfo keeps sort of pestering her and looking at her and telling her, who have you been with? And she thinks that he is incredibly jealous. And she is absolutely desperate. She feels that the love between them has changed, that she still adores him, but that he perhaps doesn't love her anymore. That even when she's sleeping, she says, she wakes up and he's got his eyes fixed on her. But at some stage, Rodolfo comes, Mimi goes, but not too far, she still can hear. Rodolfo comes and Marcello is still there. And Rodolfo confesses to Marcello that the thing is that what is killing him is not jealousy, is worry about Mimi, because Mimi has tuberculosis. And of course, we only learn at this point, otherwise there was a very suspicious, on the other hand, there was a very suspicious coughing at the beginning of the opera. And typical, once again, of these heroines of the 19th century to die of tuberculosis. And Rodolfo is really, feels absolutely terrible that he is so poor that he can't provide her with the warmth and the comfort that she needs. And that he thinks that it's going to be better for her to go, but that he also adores her. And then the scene ends with Rodolfo and Mimi confessing to each other how much they love each other, but how they cannot live together. Their life had become a misery. And it's very true to life. One of those, it's not love and hate relationship, but it could feel like love and hate relationship. It's a relationship that both want to be there, but it's impossible to be there. The act finishes, and then we move into the fourth act, and the fourth act is, I remember it to be quite short, and is, of course, the death of the girl. She has gone away, and I'm sorry for the spoiler, she has gone away, and very soon she appears to be in a very, very bad way. And the friends of Rodolfo bring her into their room. Obviously, it's winter, it's Paris. They have no money. She is a seamstress. And as you might remember, all of them were artists, and we artists are always struggling for money. I'll talk to you about that later. And basically, is an incredibly poignant death again. And they repeat that famous I do hope this helps you to entice you to watch tomorrow the Royal Opera House production. The productions are, as many of you will know, the best in the world, or some of the best in the world, with amazing singers always, with singers that not only sing fantastically but act fantastically. That has changed a lot in opera, but that's another story. And I leave you to that. But talking about struggling artists, uh, feel free. You are very welcome to support my work. This I'm not being paid by the Royal Opera House to invite you to watch them or by anybody else. I do this because I adore opera, and as I said, if you end loving it just this much of what I love it, I will have done my job properly. Anyway, if you want to support me, I got a Patreon page, and my name is Patricia Cuberos, and I am also an author, and my writer name is P.E. Cuberos, but hopefully I will remember to put all the links underneath and all the hashtags that I only learned to put very recently. I am going to do more of this series, Opera para Dummies, and I'm going to probably add a couple of programs that I already recorded. Programs, no, I am a bit ambitious. Not programs, little videos by this one. I hope you enjoy this. And please show me your appreciation. Like my Patricia Voices page. Ideally, support me on Patreon. I got my music tier is only $3 a month. That's nothing. And what else? I don't know what else. Pass it on. Bye bye.